Alright, the Legends event is now officially over, and I'm gonna miss it because those 7-hour crystals were just so good. But the question today is, did the Legends event live up to the hype as the best free-to-play event ever? Well, let's dive in and find out. So first things first was the login calendar, and this was fluctuated of course, but for the most part, it was pretty dang solid. There was a good amount of 7-star shards for Paragon players, as well as some catalysts like Tier 6 Basic and Tier 3 Alpha. And overall, it was just a pretty solid calendar that you got for free, so no complaints there. And the last reward for the Paragon players was a token to cash in on a 7-star champion, but more on that later. And so overall, the calendar, massive win, 10 out of 10, just free rewards for logging in, and these rewards were pretty dang solid. And now let's talk about the challenge, and this is where I have some complaints for sure, but we'll just dissect it, right? So nodes wise, it was a pretty fun challenge. Like the very unique node sets were pretty cool, and the bosses being like Realm of Legend characters was pretty dang awesome, right? So the challenge concept was amazing. But my complaint is the structure of the challenge. So to get the Legends token, you had to do all 6 quests in Chapter 1 and then Chapter 2 as well. And that's about 200 plus fights in total, and it took most people about like 6 hours plus. So honestly, I would have just put the token in the Chapter 2 and that's it, because if you don't want to do the first chapter, then you don't really have to, because the token's in the second chapter anyway. But no, you have to do like all 200 fights, which was a bit brutal, which fair enough, the guy's name is Brutal the Elect, so I guess it is fitting. It was just a bit of a slog, and I wouldn't really want that format the next time around. I would rather have all of Chapter 1 be for Thornbreaker and below, and Chapter 2 be all the good rewards for Paragon players, just to make it a bit less tedious overall. But besides that, the rewards were great, the nodes were fun, and it was just a pretty nice time. Besides doing every difficulty, that was pretty dang brutal, and yeah, lived up to the name for sure. Brutal the Alexis Challenge for sure was brutal, right? And next up is the arenas. Now the arenas were just so well done this time around. The amount of fights needed was just so little, and it just made it super easy because you had to do barely any fights. I think it was like 15 to max out the arena, or something really tiny. It was so good, and it was just such an easy and free 6-star shards, and also 7-star shards for the Paragon players. So that was just a massive win. No issues there whatsoever. It was just perfect, and that also had the third and final token, and more on that later, right? But yeah, overall, this was just so good. It was a breath of fresh air, because usually arena is brutal, right? Like the top 400 grind for 6-star characters, it is a whole weekend just gone. But this was just like 30 minutes and you're done, and you have all the rewards just there. I think it's perfect. I think it's really well done. And now the main event, actually no, next up is the Legends crystals. These are the best thing in the game. I think they were the best thing in the game by far. Where do I even start with these, man? So there is just so many things to dissect here. First of all, the mastery cores, whoever thought of that needs a raise ASAP. That was the best thing ever. Adding mastery cores into the crystals was just so good. You open a crystal and you get a carb core. That's 550 units right there. That is insane. That is like actually insane, man. That saves you so much time of like arena grinding for units, or it saves you money straight up. It was just so good, man. There's also boosts there, so like if you play Alliance War, you know, free boost, why not? Super cool. And the best part, of course, was the other rewards with the Tier 6 Basic, the Tier 3 Alpha, the 7-star shards. Those are always a great thing to get. And if you were lucky enough, you would get a 7-star Legend Selector. And this was just crazy, man. I saw someone that was literally level 2 pull a 7-star Selector. That's wild. That is just so wild. And then like us Paragons just never getting it. Like it is what it is. But these crystals were just crazy. Like for logging in every 7 hours for free and just getting these crystals and getting up to a 7-star Selector, it was just wild, and I was so happy to see these crystals. But it also is a complaint because it makes the current Paragon Daily Crystal just look pretty terrible. Like, I would just upgrade the Paragon Daily Crystal a little bit at least, because at this state in the game, they are pretty mediocre. So how would I change it? Well, first off, I would just add some of the current 7-hour crystal rewards into the Paragon crystals, but lower the amount, because the amount in the 7-hour crystals were just insane. So I would lower it to probably half of the value. So for the tier 3 alpha and tier 6 basic, it would just be 20%. For the 7-star shards, it would just be 300. For the Paragon crystal, it would just be 1. And I feel like this is a pretty good change. I feel like it would be a pretty nice improvement, and it wouldn't be too good because it's once every 24 hours, right? So that would be my suggestion. I would love that for sure. But overall, this 7-hour crystal was one of the best things ever in the game, flat out. So massive win there. And last but not least, the 7-star Legend Selector. So the big reward was a Legend Selector, and you could pick 7-star Ebony Maw, you could pick 7-star Ant-Man, Black Panther, Emma Frost, Sam Wilson, or Red Goblin. So there are some things to talk about here. First of all, the pool of champions isn't anything top tier, obviously, but they're all pretty good, to be honest. I think they're all pretty valuable. And while these champions aren't like Nimrod or Hercules or Kitty Pryde, they're just good, right? So I feel like it was a nice addition to this event to have a free 7-star champion. So honestly, no complaints here at all. Why would I complain about a free 7-star champion? I think the pool of characters, pretty good. I do wish that some of them didn't want to be awakened though. Like Sam Wilson really wants to dupe. Black Panther really wants to dupe. Red Goblin does as well. Emma Frost is fine. Ebony Maw is fine. Ant-Man also kind of wants to dupe too, I think. So 4 out of 6 wanting the dupe at least kind of does hurt for sure, but you can't really complain too much. So it's a free 7-star, right? Would I have wished for a bit of a better pool overall? Of course, who wouldn't wish for a better pool? Like Jabari Panther, Cersei, I would just love them added there, but the current pool is still pretty fine. And like I said, it's a free 7-star, so I'm not going to complain too much. But yeah, overall, I feel like the event did live up to the hype. I think it is the best free-to-play event ever because the 7-hour crystals giving the mastery cores and just some pretty awesome other awards too, as well as the free 7-star champion, the Titan shards, the abundance of 7-star shards too, the free login calendar. It was just all really, really good, and it was free. That's the most important part. This costed nothing at all. Like the Morbius event going on right now is pretty good too, but that costs like $25 minimum. So it's good, but it's not free. This was just purely free, so I think it is pretty dang awesome. But yeah, it wasn't perfect though. There were some complaints that I had for sure, but those complaints were nothing too major. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this event. Do you want to see it again next year? I of course do. I wish we get like another selection of 7-star characters. Jabari Panther and Cersei if you're listening, Kabam. And yeah, that's about it for me.